History with Larry.
All right, Larry.
All right.
Yes.
I like that music.
You like the intro?
Yeah.
For you?
What they call that, bumper music?
Yeah, it is bumper music.
What they used to call in the old radio days.
That's right. No one knows what that means anymore. But so what do we got today?
Today we have a guy that's unknown, really, to probably most people, unless
Yeah,
you're
I'm
some
sure.
kind of
Until now.
unless you're some kind of I was going to say nerd, but I guess
There's probably a lot of nerds out there.
if you're into engineering, you would probably know who this is.
Okay.
Okay.
I am not into engineering, and I don't know really. You told me who it was earlier, but
I did. I shouldn't have,
Right.
but it's actually the story of this guy it's kind of tragic at the end. I mean, it
really?
seems so promising, and I almost didn't.
doesn't everybody in history have a tragic end?
No, I
all die?
wouldn't say. Well, they all die. Yeah, that's true. It's a good point. But this is kind of sad, and I almost didn't include it, but I thought that's important to the story. So
Yeah.
but we're going to go back a little bit before we get to the person because a little
History
workup, I
lesson?
guess. Yeah. So during the American Industrial Revolution.
Oh, way back.
Yeah. So we had the invention of the steam engine was a big part of that. Because up until that point, travel was horse and buggy.
Yes.
Or sail on the ocean.
Sail.
That's right. But the invention of the steam engine created a whole new world of travel and manufacturing.
Sure.
But the steam engine had some problems. One, it had to be fed fuel constantly, and the parts needed to be lubricated quite often. And to fuel it, you could just keep the machine running and just shovel coal in. But to lubricate it, you had to shut it down, which meant production had to stop. Or if you're on the train had to stop, and you had passengers had to wait. Somebody had to crawl underneath it and lubricate it and all that.
They didn't have air conditioning either, did they?
They did not. So, yeah, if you're...
On a day like today.
Yeah, could you imagine? Whew.
Yeah.
Stopping just across Lake Pontchartrain on the
Oh,
train and
man.
having to wait it out. And,
Yeah, it's a hot one today.
Yeah,
If you don't know, it is like 100 degrees, feels like 112, something like that. It's hot.
Yeah, so this brings us up to the point of the man of our story today.
Okay.
So Elijah was born on May 2nd. Now, the dates I had were two different dates. One was 1843, the other was 1844. And I don't know if it was because the record keeping wasn't as...
I'm guessing that's probably the case, right?
He was born in Ontario,
Oh,
which is kind of unique.
California. No, not that Ontario.
No, not that one.
Canada.
Yeah, Canada. But when he was 15, his parents arranged for him to move to Scotland to go to engineering school as an apprentice.
Okay.
So he spent 8 years in Edinburgh, Scotland. I think that's how you say it.
Yeah.
Edinburgh, however.
Edinburgh.
I'm not Scottish, so.
Yeah, kind of.
Well, Irish,
Yeah.
but yeah, close.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Top of the morning to you.
Yeah. That's right. After 8 years as an apprentice, his parents at the time moved to Michigan, to the U.S., and then he joined them in Michigan. Couldn't find a job as an engineer, and he ended up working for the Michigan Central Railroad as a fireman and oilman, which the fireman was the guy who shoveled the coal into the...
so you didn't put out fires.
He didn't put them out. He kept
created
it going. And an oilman. So when the train stopped to be lubricated, somebody had to crawl underneath the train. They usually had a team of guys because, long train, it would take one person forever to do it. They'd crawl underneath there, lube all the axles and bearings and all that. So it was a tedious and dirty job.
I'm sure.
And hot, too.
Yeah.
So, but having an engineer background, he thought, hey, there's a problem here. What can I do to fix it? So he developed what was called the oil drip cup. It was a little cup that would fit over the axles or the bearings and things like that. And it used the pressure from the steam engine to lubricate those parts. And they could do it as it was moving, so they didn't have to...
So he just got rid of a bunch of people's jobs.
He did,
Right
but it increased production, and other people soon realized that, hey, we can use it. He invented it for the railroad.
Right.
But then other people realized we can use this as well. Steamships, factories, all kinds of uses it had for it. And so a lot of people wanted it. He got it patented but he didn't have the money to produce it himself, so he had to sell the rights for somebody else to manufacture it. I know.
Just the way it is.
But he did a simple design that was very effective, but other people wanted to copy it, so they started making cheaper products. And that's where manufacturers who wanted his product started asking, I want the genuine. I want the
real McCoy.
The real McCoy.
Right.
So that's the man of our story is Elijah McCoy. He's
the Irishman. No. He's a black guy, right?
A black guy. His parents were slaves that escaped Kentucky via the Underground Railroad up to Canada.
Wow.
And that's why he was born a free man in Canada, went to Scotland, came back to the U.S.
Wonder if he got his last name in Scotland or something, because McCoy isn't a...
it's not a Kentucky name, is it?
No, it's not. The Irish were not free people either, always.
No.
So...
I couldn't find out where he got his last name from. So I don't know if it was
maybe his parents.
Well, yeah, but sometimes the former slaves would take the name of their slave owners. But so the tragic he had 57 U.S. patents to his name.
Who did he sell his patent to?
I couldn't find out who it was. I looked on several different sources, but I couldn't figure out who it was. He actually, so here's the exciting part. He had 57 patents to his name. One of them was, you would think.
Well, maybe.
Yeah. He improved the ironing board of all things.
Wow.
For his wife.
I was going to say his wife had some issues. In what way? They
he made it more portable, foldable.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he also improved the water sprinkler for your lawn.
They didn't have sprinklers back then, Larry.
Well, they did. They had a portable sprinkler type. Yeah, and he got a patent on an improvement on it. So those are just a couple of things.
Nice.
Most of his patents come for the railroad uses.
Sure.
So,
right.
But this is the exciting part was he didn't start his own company until he was in his 70s.
Wow.
Yeah, it was 76. It was in 1920. Yeah, so he was born in
1843 or 4.
Yeah, that's right. I said that, but yeah, so he was well up in years when, and I couldn't figure out why. I couldn't find out why he waited so long. I don't know if it was just money trying to find investors, or
because he was a black man in a white man's world.
That was a big part of it, but there were other black men who were successful at the time. But it could be that
funding,
location.
Yep. Yeah.
But he lived in Michigan, and timing. But he decided he got a chance. And the sad part is, two things that were sad. One, his first wife died after only about 4 years of marriage.
Well, because of ironing.
Yeah, no, I don't know. Yeah, maybe that's why he invented the ironing board, made it easier. No, I don't know. But then he remarried, and they were married for quite a while. But so he started his company, and then his wife they were in a car crash in
Larry, they did not have cars back then.
1922.
Okay.
Yeah, they did. Which is kind of weird. It's like, how did you die in a car crash in 19? Because the cars.
That's what killed him.
Yeah. His wife.
Oh.
It's like the cars weren't traveling very fast. So,
but they also were made out of. I mean, they didn't have airbags.
Right. That's true. Maybe she fell out and hit a rock or something. But they didn't have seatbelts, so it was.
Wow.
Maybe she fell out. I mean, that's a legitimate thing. Maybe.
Well, they were called the horseless carriage when they first invented.
That is true. They probably didn't have a cup. Yeah. Okay.
Well, they had a more.
Let's go with that.
A
she
Model
fell
T.
out.
Yeah. And he was seriously injured in that as well, and so he never fully recovered. So he was already in his 70s. And his company just struggled because his health never recovered, and he died impoverished.
Wow!
In October 10th, 1929.
1929. That's almost 100 years ago, man.
I know. Isn't that crazy?
That is nuts. That's crazy. Well, good for.
So that's our story, Elijah McCoy. Which is, it's an interesting story.
Yeah.
To look up his life and.
Elijah, like the name.
Yeah.
Elijah McCoy.
Yeah.
Interesting, because I've heard people refer to the real McCoy.
Yeah.
I didn't know what that was from.
Because there's going to be people out there, I'm sure things are going to come in that's not where that phrase came from. Nobody knows where it comes from, but it was, a lot of people do attribute it to him because his product was so well made that everybody wanted the real thing.
They didn't want the Walmart brand.
No, they didn't. Or the Dollar General.
That's right.
But so it's his contribution to civilization was incredible because it really did make a difference in travel and production.
Sure.
Yeah.
But he never became a huge success at it. Or
yeah,
wealthy.
so you got to take that money away, Joshua. The money's got to go back.
That's right.
So, well, cool story. I didn't know who he was, so that's cool to hear.
Yeah, little unknown name in American history.
That's right.
That made a difference. So,
all right, well, cool. Well, that's our history lesson for today.
Yep.
Thanks again, Larry.